In terms of the region, in terms of world politics, is this just another wrinkle in a regional conflict, or does it have the potential for something wider?
It is important because it threatens to enlarge the already horrendous mess in Iraq and to make it even more complicated, to make it even less likely American troops would be withdrawn from the region, and to create a much wider regional crisis. What everyone in that region is afraid of is that this nightmare in Iraq is going to wash across their borders and create other conflagrations in the area, and this is Exhibit A. And let's also remember that the threat of an independent Kurdish state, which is now almost a reality, has roiled up Turkey royally because its Kurds, who represent about 15 to 18% of the population in Turkey, may be emboldened by an independent Kurdish state in Kurdistan, say we want our independent Kurdish state or we want to join. This is the worst nightmare of the Turks. The Turkish army, which is a government within a government, has said that it will never ever allow this to happen, and it will go to war to prevent it.
If you're President Bush trying to deal with all of this, a new beginning of a power base of a China-Russia alliance, very happy to have Turkey coming over into a different orbit here.
That's right. Anti-American sentiment in Turkey is intense. The moderate AK party, Justice and Welfare Party in Turkey of Prime Minister Erdogan, is caught also between Iraq and a hard place because it's got to do something. Turks are demanding revenge and action, but the government in Ankara does not want to anger the United States or Europe by launching an invasion of Iraq. It'll get Washington furious and get it on Washington's blacklist, but it will also anger Europe and foreclose any chances that Turkey will get into the EU, which is its fondest ambition. I don't think it'll ever happen, but the Turks still have hope. Meanwhile, you've got two governments in Turkey. You have the the elected democratic civilian government of Prime Minister Erdogan, and you've got the Turkish army, which operates at its own pace and marches to its own drummers. And the army is less concerned about relations with Europe. In fact, it doesn't really want it. It wants war against Iraq.
Many commentators have described the American policy in Iraq as perhaps the greatest strategic error of the 20th century. Maybe we're starting just to see much of the consequence of just what a strategic defeat, perhaps, the Iraq War is for U.S. interests in the region. But what should U.S. policy be?
The first thing, and I'm sure they're trying to do it now, is to put maximum pressure on America's Kurdish allies in Iraqi Kurdistan to shut down the PKK operations and stop having them launch these provocative raids. And tell them that if you don't stop it, we're not going to protect you when the Turkish army comes storming across the border. I'm sure there's some very tough talk going on right now.
Would the PKK be so bold if there were no American troops in Iraq?
Yes, I think it's hard to tell because on one hand they seem to want to provoke a war with the Turks.
But why would you do it unless you thought the American troops were there to be a force? Because otherwise you're just going to get creamed.
They wouldn't be, and the American invasion is what let this particular evil genie out of the bottle, the whole Kurdistan situation, which was perfectly predictable and cited by analysts before the American invasion. They said if you go into Iraq, you're going to have the Kurdistan problem, you're going to have civil war in Iraq, the Iranians are going to take over part of the country. One wonders how much the White House is even understanding of this situation now, the same White House that didn't know the difference between Shiites and Sunnis and couldn't tell the difference between Baghdad and Tehran.